What is going on, guys? Rewinds here, and in this video I'm going to be bringing you guys my review for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Manga chapter number 13. So straight up, without even diving too much into the chapter's contents, I think we can all agree that this was a pretty crazy chapter for the story itself. I know it wasn't a very action heavy chapter at all. We barely got any, so I know for the people that are fans of that, maybe they thought a little different. But if you're someone who's been enjoying the story and loves seeing the story reveal new things and progress, this was the chapter for you. I personally really enjoyed it. Definitely some great reveals, and it's setting things up for sure to be interesting going forward. So to start it off, we did have a solo cover of Boruto, which I thought was pretty cool. I was a fan of that, so that was already a thumbs up to start things off. As for the actual chapter contents itself, we started off with Jorah, about to finish up Boruto, but he didn't because they prioritized the Thorn's Hope bulb, and a bug popped up too, so that's when they made that decision. So that seemed to be the priority. Jorah also dropped a pretty, I want to say, solid quote where he talked about, the heavens urging Boruto to stay alive, and the divine intervention. It was a pretty cool quote. Cool little start to the chapter. And then after that, we went straight to the flashback, I want to say around like page 5 or 6. And that's what majority of this chapter was. And I'm actually kind of glad that it was, because I like seeing this kind of flashback content, seeing a little bit of what's been going on during that time skip run, So as that's happening, it's cool to see Boruto actually on the run from some of the shinobi, and then that leads us up to the whole interaction he has with Kashi and Koji. So that happens thanks to Koji using a frog, which is actually a scientific ninja tool that he uses to communicate. Then he reverse summons Boruto over, and once that happens, Koji pretty much says like, hey, we're at an abandoned hideout of Orochimaru, which I'm glad they're using that, because that's something we know Orochimaru's had hella hideouts throughout all of Naruto. So pretty smart idea by him. He even is hiding the location, I believe, of the place through genjutsu, so it's pretty tough to locate. So there's that as well. So that definitely explains more too how Boruto's been on the run this whole time and evaded getting captured or cornered. So yeah, that it also had me thinking, if we're gonna actually see Orochimaru pop up here in the manga at some point. I think it would be cool to see him again, because we really only got him for the Mitsuki backstory, I believe, and that I feel like it's he's a character I feel like we should be seeing more of. Not only him, I feel like if there's one thing that I really do wish Boruto the manga would do better, which sadly it can't really, because of the monthly release schedule it has, it's that if we got some of these older characters around a little more, I'm not saying that they have to be super involved in let's say exactly what's going on in the action and completely involved in the story, but it's kind of hard to believe that they're not at least like reacting to some of the events that are going on in the world. So I do wish we would at least get that. So getting back to the chapter, Boruto's trying to figure out who this guy is, and he remembers because Koji shows him the mask, and Boruto is, saying he can't forgive him because, well, not forgive him, he can't forget him because he killed Ao, and he almost killed Konohamaru, and, Koji wasn't really responding to that all that much. He instead asked Boruto to verify the day he was born, and that kind of led Boruto to ask him, like, hey, do you know about omnipotence? And Koji ended up responding to that by saying that he's not exactly aware of what omnipotence is or exactly how it works, but he does know the consequences that come from omnipotence. So he knows that the memories were altered for a fact, and that's why Boruto's on a run. And that's already an exciting reveal to us, because we know they teamed up. So that's already like a big exciting reveal, because then that leads us to the next question. How does he know about omnipotence, and how does that work? Which I'm glad they answered that too, because Koji says that he knew in advance that that would all happen. He also did apologize to Boruto for fighting him earlier on, even though, it was to just outwit Ishiki. Boruto, kind of doesn't hold a grudge, though. He said he understands the weight of a mission. More maturation showed by Boruto there. This is, when he's 13, I believe, now on the run, or maybe 14, somewhere in that realm. And Koji pretty much said that, he was prepared to die against Ishiki, and he likely would have. But then we got like a panel of what happens right as Koji's about to die. He unlocks this new ability where he can see these different lines of futures. He can see some events that are happening in the future. And for example, he had seen Ishiki's death happen. He had seen Code's limiters removed. He even saw omnipotence happening. He also saw something that we haven't seen yet, which is a vision of 5 Shinju together, 4 of which that we have seen, but a new one which resembles Shinki. And also, I have been reading some stuff, like in the comments, some people have been saying that what if this Shinju is Naruto? I guess like hairstyle wise it can kind of make sense, but I just don't think that's what is gonna be the case, especially because Naruto is trapped in that dimension. So it wouldn't really make much sense for Jorah to have reached him, especially, or even the others to have reached him, especially because they just pulled up to the village looking for him. So I don't think that really makes much sense, in my opinion. Koji, realized in that moment that he had to live on in that battle against Ishiki to protect the planet. And he said, eventually as he saw some of these things actually become reality, then he got confident with the power. So after, for example, like the omnipotence thing was correct, especially, it, only helped him gain more confidence overall. So, but he did say he was only completely convinced about omnipotence as he was talking to Boruto. So, Boruto did ask him how he got this kind of power, and I know that's like a big question a lot of us as readers would have had, and I'm glad they explained it pretty well. I did like the explanation. They did talk about, Koji talked about how it all originates really from Shibai Otsutsuki, and what happened is that Amado transplanted Shibai's cells into all the Kara members with the hopes of manifesting a Shinjutsu at some point. But whether you got that was all dependent on luck. So Koji got it in the moment, near his death, for example. But some people got it sooner, such as Code got his claw marks, or Ida got, quote-unquote godlike powers, or Damon and his reflection. But then there's people like Boro and Delta that never awakened these powers, and we know Boro's out of the picture, but Delta's still around. So I did say this in my spoiler video as well, but I do think Delta could awaken some power down the line when needed, in some sort of scenario. I feel like that might happen. And this ability of Koji is called 10 Directions, the power to see all futures, he says. And he did tell Boruto about some alternate futures that he had seen, where, for example, where Naruto had actually died to Ishiki, and then Ishiki reincarnated in Kawaki's body and destroyed the planet overall through the divine tree. And see, guys, especially after reading that, we gotta give Naruto even more flowers, in my opinion, because Naruto defied fate. Because in reality, Naruto, it seems like, I don't want to say he necessarily should have died, because this is just one vision of what could have happened, but Naruto did defy fate and survive that battle. Even though he did lose Kurama, sadly, he did make it himself, which is something big, because if he had died in that battle, Ishiki would have won everything, and there'd be no Boruto where we're at right now. Everything would have been over. Ishiki would have taken over. Maybe we would have gotten, at that point, it would have been like Ishiki's Adventures or something. But yeah, so Naruto defied fate, so props to him for that. And then Koji also did discuss in another reality that after Naruto vanished, thanks to what Kawaki did, Kawaki actually ended up killing Boruto, and he also killed Sarada. But after that happens, he's later helplessly beat up by Code, and they do emphasize helplessly. And this is Code without the limiter, so it seemed like Kawaki didn't stand a chance at that point. Boruto, meanwhile, in that timeline, got devoured by the Ten Tails after he was still killed, and the planet still ends up getting destroyed. And he also mentions that even currently, the present future they're in is on a big tightrope, and pretty much says that he can help Boruto out now by seeing the future. For example, Boruto will less likely get cornered by, the Konoha Shinobi, and more importantly, he says that he's seen the visions of what jutsu Boruto's meant to learn in the future, and since he can see that vision, he will help him learn those jutsus now to significantly speed up his training. Now, I gotta give them flowers for this too, because this is really good writing, because a lot of people are wondering, like, yeah, Boruto's a prodigy and all, but how did he learn all of this? And I mean, he did pick up a lot from Sasuke, in that first year of training that they had. But despite that, some people were still not like super convinced that he should be this strong, especially while, training on his own for 2 years. So this makes a lot more sense now, especially that Koji was able to speed up his training because he knew what Boruto actually had the potential to learn. So that makes sense why he became so OP this soon. Regardless, it seems like he was meant to be OP in a matter of time. This is just making it happen way sooner. And Koji also mentions to him that there is a way to save Sasuke, but he'll explain that to him later. That's still a point that I feel like they just don't want to tell us yet. They're saving that for sure for a little bit more down the line, which I'm cool with. We did get a lot of answers in this chapter, so it's not like they got to tell us everything, at the moment. I know as much as we'd want to know, they can hold off on at least that for now. And, one of the main points also was that the worst possible future could happen even as they were talking, which thankfully we know didn't happen because we had the whole time skip happen. But that worst possible future was the Ten Tails breaking out of Code's control and attaining evolution and then becoming the humanoid Shinjus. Another crazy plot point actually was how many of them there could be, which is 400. If there is 400 of them, that is going to be tough for Boruto to stop on his own, even with the help of like Kawaki and maybe a few others. It would be tough. Definitely your normal shinobi aren't standing a chance against them. You're probably going to need, I want to say, like at least Kage, level shinobi to compete with these Shinjus. And that's, still not even guaranteeing that they're going to win. But that's crazy if that reality does come true. And then, they talked about removing the source of the Ten Tails in time, which is what Boruto was trying to do at the start of Two Blue Vortex, but sadly for him it was too late, even though Koji knew the chance that that would actually all happen was not too much. And pretty much the reality of it is that if Boruto goes down, Kawaki always gets preyed on afterwards, supposedly. So that's why Boruto needs to get stronger, because it seems like even though Kawaki is generally a strong character, he's not on the level of these Shinjus at any point of the futures that Koji's seeing. But now that Kawaki is going to eventually get this information as well, I feel like Kawaki is going to be due for a major power up in some way too. And another big thing is that Koji mentioned that the future changes every single moment, and that possibilities overall are endless. Boruto pretty much just agrees to work with them as long as he doesn't ask him to kill Kawaki, and he says that his ultimate goal is to snap his stupid brother back to his senses and restore the Uzumaki family. And pretty much the flashback ends with Boruto saying that he'll handle Code and the Ten Tails. And then we come back to the present, which I think is the perfect point. We have Sarada injured, but Himawari actually wakes up and rushes over and instantly heals Sarada. So this just shows you how broken Himawari is starting to become now. Because, I mean, that might be a bit much, I feel like, for certain people reading the chapter and seeing that she can pull that off. Especially to such an extent. But that's what we got with it. Just shows you that Himawari is pretty OP. I don't know how I feel about the instant healing stuff yet. I'm not calling it bad for sure. I don't think it's necessarily that. I'm just wondering if that kind of came a little too soon. But definitely cool ability for her to have. She then also sees Boruto, who Sumire tries to tell her to heal Boruto, but Kawaki says not to because he tells Konohamaru to do something first. So Konohamaru actually cuffs up Boruto with these shackles that were apparently made by Amado to prevent any usage of any jutsu. And Sarada tried arguing against this, but Konohamaru says that this is a necessary like protocol, And I've seen some people in a little bit of a outrage over this because we're gonna obviously want to support Boruto as like the main character and whatnot, but we do gotta understand that majority of these people, including Konohamaru, are affected by the omnipotence. And that aside, like, especially since the omnipotence is affecting Konohamaru, you guys gotta think, like, especially from his perspective, yeah, he helped them out in this fight just now, but he's still the guy who supposedly killed Naruto, which is Konohamaru's teacher and his idol. So I feel like if that had been like a real scenario where someone had killed Naruto, I feel like that's someone Konohamaru would probably never really forgive, and I can see why a lot of the village wouldn't either, because they think that Boruto's the one that did all that. So try kind of seeing it from that perspective a little bit. Kawaki did, towards the ending few pages, reach by Boruto's neck and grab the toad. The toad did end up vanishing out of Kawaki's hand. But then we end up for the final pages, which is us at the Shinju hideout pretty much, and the Thorn Soul Bulb is brought back there. Hidari ends up getting revived, but as Hidari comes back, a new Thorn Soul Bulb is also coming out, meaning that a new Shinju will be born soon, likely something we're going to see in the next month's chapter. And Jura, meanwhile, is currently thinking up a name to end off the chapter. So, big stuff coming up because this chapter set us up for the next chapter. But on top of that, we also got a great explanation, in my opinion, of what Kojis powers are and, how this all ended up helping out Boruto to get so strong. And they're just connecting dots really, really well. And I'm really happy about that. Overall, this was a 10 out of 10 chapter. Definitely a top 3 Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter for me. Possibly even my favorite. From a story end, I think it might be. But I would have to really look back at some of the others. But 2 Blue Vortex, honestly, 0 misses still. No chapter has been bad. Every chapter has been good or above, in my opinion. One more thing I do want to talk about before I wrap up this review is, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's that one line from the first chapter of the manga, as well as the first episode of the anime, that's been trending lately, where Boruto's saying, was this the only possible outcome? And him saying that is great foreshadowing, because now we're actually playing with the whole probability of outcomes that Kashi and Koji has going on. So is Kawaki versus Boruto and the village actually being completely destroyed the best outcome scenario that could have happened for them to actually survive on? That stuff I'm very interested to see. Is Boruto gonna have to kill Kawaki? We'll find out. But all in all, great chapter. I'm excited for chapter 14. Let me know what you guys thought, of course, in the comments below. But that's going to wrap up this one. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you guys are new. And as always, I hope you guys have a good day or night whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm Rewinds, and I'm out.